Hey, how's it going, you guys? In this video today, I'm going to be talking about the 10 things I wish I knew before starting out as an actor. Let's go. So in this video, like I said, we're going to be talking about 10 things that I wish I knew before starting acting. Number one is rejection is normal. Now, what I mean by rejection is normal is one of the statistics that they talk about in Hollywood is for every 100 submissions that you do, so for every 100 roles that you submit for, roughly you'll get about 10 of those auditions. And out of those 10 auditions, you'll likely land one of those roles. For an example, like in my first 3 months of doing acting, I had submitted over 700 roles basically. For 700 roles, I ended up getting, I forget what the number is, how many auditions and self-tapes that I ended up doing, but I ended up landing about 10 of those roles out of that 700. So it's a little better than that 10% ratio. Well, the sad part is a lot of the time you'll submit it and then you won't get any feedback from it. You won't hear like you've been rejected, you won't hear anything. It basically is like you submit it and then if they don't want you, they essentially just ghost you, is basically how it happens within the acting world. So it's like, you know, you break up with a girlfriend or you go on a first date, you know, you had a really good time, you're like, hey, this is a really good time with you, and then she just ghosts you, says nothing after the fact. Or maybe you're the one doing the ghosting. But anyways, it happens in Hollywood.
I ain't afraid of no ghosts.
So on to point number 2 is self-tape auditions. Now, when you traditionally think of auditions, you normally think of basically like going in person, you have to read your script, and then, you know, they're like, yeah, we like you, we don't like you. But basically post-COVID is basically when they started to do self-tape auditions. And self-tape auditions are basically doing ones like home, like this. You put up a background behind you, or maybe you find a black wall or just a plain wall basically behind you, set up the camera in front of you, you read your lines, act out your lines, and then basically you submit it, you know, either through the casting site or send it to their email. And that's basically how self-tape auditions are done today. But that's just one of the things, you know, when you first come into Hollywood, you're like, okay, I'm gonna have to go in person to all these auditions, and it's like not really the case anymore. It's actually all done at home for the most part, or if you have a place to go to, then you're doing your self-tape auditions there. So anyways, that's the self-tape auditions. So there kind of is a second part to self-tape auditions, and that would be callbacks. Now, callbacks normally happen after your self-tape auditions. Basically, you do your self-tape audition, you submit it to the casting director, they look at it and they go, we like you, we don't want you, kind of thing. And then sometimes there's basically that second stage, which are callbacks. And sometimes callbacks are even done in person. For an example, there was one that I had where that was for a commercial person, and there was like 10 to 15 people that were basically there for the callbacks. And one of us were gonna get the role. So anyways, you get there, they have the script and everything, but what had happened was they ended up changing about 60% of the script. I had it previously written down, and then I had to rewrite basically the new parts of the script. And then I had about 5 to 10 minutes to memorize that new script. Now, not all callbacks are gonna have you, you know, throw a new portion at you, see how you do and everything, but the chances are it could happen to you. So anyways, read through the script and everything, it went really well. But like I said, didn't end up getting the commercial, but that's just an example I wanted to give you guys of a callback and how these can be done in person. So anyways, on to the next one. So point number 3 is your mental health can definitely take a hit as an actor. One of the cases, like we've all seen, the guy that played the Joker got so much into the headspace of the character that he ended up, you know, taking his own life because he got so into the character and just became that person basically on and off set. The more you get into your character, the more the character comes alive, both on set and then also too on film when you're filming. So there kind of is that plus and minus that you kind of have to battle through, but also too the mental health of like, what are you willing to do as an actor? What roles are you willing to take? Like, am I willing to take a role where I'm gonna have to beat up somebody? Am I gonna have to take a role where an intimacy coordinator is involved? You know, you have to consider these things that like, how is that gonna affect my mental health? How is that gonna be portrayed basically, you know, if I do these parts or if I take these roles kind of thing. So that's one thing you gotta consider too. But also mental health also applies also to when you submit for so many roles, you get rejected for so many roles, and it just takes a hit. Or sometimes when you finally get all the yeses, they all kind of happen all at once. And then you kind of got to filter which ones you want to take basically. So then it's almost like the emotional highs and then emotional lows of being like the onset, you know, it's an emotional high. But then when you're offset and then you're trying to look for work basically for the next role, that's kind of the emotional toll that you can go through. So the fourth point is being on set. Now, the reason why I say being on set is something I wish I knew before starting out in the acting space is thankfully I come from the world of doing YouTube content. So I'm used to basically setting up the cameras, filming myself, doing the editing, basically being everything, you know, from pre-production, post-production to everything in between. So thankfully I'm really comfortable with that. But for a lot of people being on set, where you see there's a lighting person, there's a sound person, there's an A camera, there's a B camera, and there's all these different things that you're not really used to, or if you've never really been in front of a crowd or just never even spoken in front into a camera, it can be a little intimidating. But one of the things I would say though that can be really, for me at least, is I like to get to the set early. This is just my personality maybe, but I like to get to the set early so then I become more comfortable with the environment, talk with those people around me, that way I start to feel comfortable. And one of the nice things too is that once you get to know kind of like your co-actors, that maybe the people in background or maybe the leads, you know, preface the leads though, just depending on what type of project you're doing. Sometimes that could be a negative if you're talking to the leads because they're trying to prep and everything. But if they engage with you, then it's kind of like you have permission to engage with them also. But anyways, the more you can talk with the people around you, in my opinion, while you're in holding, which holding is normally the area where they hold you before you actually go on to set, and they got snacks and everything like that. But anyways, so talking to people while you're going, before you go on to set and everything kind of makes it more feel like a family, and you just get more comfortable with each other, especially too if that's going to be the person that you're going to be interacting with the whole entire time. Like if it's me and another person and we're supposed to be acting as if we're parents, for an example, or, you know, if we're supposed to play like a brother, you know, brother and brother thing, or we're supposed to be best friends, then it's like good to have that chemistry already offset before coming onto the set. Just makes it just a little easier. And this goes into the next point of networking. So networking is really important in the industry, or just even in general, and just in me in Hollywood. One of the reasons why I say this is because you never know who you're gonna run into, but also too, you never know what type of information they have, how long they've been in it as an actor or an actress, and just the words of wisdom that they have. But also too, networking could also open up other opportunities down the road because you've developed those type of relationships. For an example, I was in a Sabrina Carpenter music video, and in the holding area, I tried talking with some of the background guys and they didn't want to talk basically. So I was like, okay, whatever. I'm just gonna, you know, drink my water and eat my snacks basically. But then I overheard a conversation and some guys talking about golf, and I'm big into golf and big into playing golf, for an example. And then basically I go over there and engage in the conversation, and basically it was the head stunt coordinator, the assistant stunt coordinator, and it was Sabrina Carpenter's double that does all of her stunts, and then one of the guys that also does some of the stunts too. And what was really cool about this was the head stunt coordinator was the same guy that had done all these Marvel movies and everything too. But like I said, had I never engaged in that conversation, I never would have had the opportunity to meet all those different people. And even offset too, like as you do different projects and everything, like I also have a couple short films I want to film eventually. So getting to network with all these other actors also is the opportunity that I'll have in the future, and different producers and camera people, sound people, lighting people, is I'm gonna have the opportunity to work with all these people too when I start to shoot my own films and my own projects basically. So that's just one of the major advantages about networking. And like I said, just little tidbits that you get from different actors and everything also. So anyways, networking is important. So this next one is probably one of the biggest ones I wish I knew before starting acting, is getting paid. Think it's all glamorous and it's all like, oh my gosh, you're gonna make a ton of money. You know, you're gonna get paid really well. Maybe if you're an A-list actor, but on the come up and everything as an actor, it's a little bit of a grind that you have to go through. And not just that, usually the projects, normally it's like you do a project, and then normally it's like a 30-day wait sometimes before you get paid. Or it can even be a 60-day wait before the next, like you actually get paid from the project. On occasion, you can do like music videos or different projects like that, where maybe it's a little shorter, maybe it's like a week, or maybe some days, some projects even get blessed where it is literally just like, hey, once the shoot's done, we're paying you. But that's kind of one of the things you just have to worry about and just think about as an actor. So sometimes maybe it's like a credit card. You know, you're using that credit card to basically, you know, do all your spending and everything like that. But that's also a very dangerous place to be too, because using that credit card, you know, you're using everything, but then it's like when those bills come, you're putting everything on the credit card, and then hopefully all of your checks and all the work that you've done can pay off that credit card and give you a little bit of extra cushion along the way. But with all the ups and downs of getting roles, not getting roles, you know, it affects your pay. So definitely, if you can definitely make enough to the point where you either have like a side gig to kind of cushion the blow, basically, of, you know, the ups and downs of the industry or the ups and downs of getting roles, that definitely will help your mental health, but also help in the pay and just your peace of mind too. Just if you have that day job essentially, or that part-time job of getting that consistent income, just because the inconsistencies, or like I said, you have to wait 30 days, 60 days, sometimes 2-3 weeks before getting paid from these different roles that you're on. So anyways, that's just one of my things I would have to say about getting paid as an actor. So the next point I want to make is investing in yourself. Now, the reason why investing in yourself can be really good is because it'll make you better and hopefully your performance better. But also too, maybe it's even investing in your self-tape auditions, because that's going to be the first step. Well, actually, let's back up a little bit. So if you think about just in general, before you're even auditioning for these roles, sometimes dressing up in those characters can make a big difference. So for example, if I'm gonna play a thug, I'm gonna put on like a leather jacket, I'm gonna put like on a black shirt, I'm gonna wear my blue jeans and everything. And so if you have that look already and then do that self-tape audition, maybe that helps a little bit more for that casting director to see you already in that character to help. But maybe it's also too like getting lights, you know, lights like these that just make your self-tape audition better, because then you kind of pop more on the screen. Or maybe it's getting a background, you know, or if you don't have a background like that, I even used like a white sheet before using this one. So anyways, it's kind of like investing in yourself on the self-tape audition side, in my opinion, can pay off and make your image just that much better. Also too, investing in your wardrobe is also another way that you can help get different roles that will also help you. But also investing in yourself too as an actor could look like going to acting classes, looking at YouTube videos that it's going to help you, just because you have to express different emotions. So anyways, investing in yourself is super important because it's going to help you get those roles, and that means you get paid, and that means you keep improving as an actor. So let's talk about the next one. All right, so the next one is making a reel. So making a reel, as when you first start off, traditionally you don't have any footage of you acting because you just never been on camera before. So what I would recommend doing is you can reenact scenes with your friends or family members, and then basically put moments together like that where you're showing sad, you're showing anger, you're showing your different emotions and range of emotions, or just different characters that you could kind of play. That would be one way of starting to make a reel. But then as you get going as an actor, you start to get footage from your different films or the different projects you've been on. And then what you do is you edit those all together basically, and then it's kind of like a highlight reel is basically what it is, if your range of acting and just the acting stuff you've done. And then you submit those with your submissions and the self-tapes, and then basically it just adds to your chances of just getting hired for more roles basically. So anyways, that is the next point about how making a reel can make a difference as an actor. So one of the last points I want to make about this is kind of how it's a marathon and not a sprint. Now the reason why I say that is this industry, you may get lucky where you get a big break right off the bat. Maybe you get a really cool opportunity because you look, or maybe you fit the just whatever that director is looking for. But most likely you're going to start off in the background, and then you'll go to day players, then you'll switch to supporting roles, and then you'll get casted as leads. It's kind of the normal progression that kind of happens through that. But like I said, you just never know what's going to happen in your acting career or your acting journey. It is more of a marathon where you can kind of get these bits and pieces and everything, and you kind of work your way, build up your confidence, build up your memorization of the lines, memorization of the slides, and you just will naturally kind of go through that progression to the point where you're like, okay, I'm actually going to go for some sneaky parts now. Now you feel more comfortable in front of the camera, you feel more comfortable on set, and then you kind of progress. You're like, okay, I'll start with the one line, then I'll go to a couple lines, then, like I said, kind of works out that way. So anyways, if you do the sprint and everything where you're just trying to blitz your way all the way through, I want to become a lead right off the bat. Unless you have that natural talent, just get that natural break. It can happen, but it just doesn't happen that often, unfortunately. So anyways, I hope these tips help you guys, and these are the things I wish I knew as an actor before starting. And hopefully you guys will get out there in your acting career. Go ahead and check out some of these other videos I got. If you guys want to laugh or just want to see some other things I've done. Anyways, have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.